from your study with those in the military and executives and high-performing athletes, what have you learned by testing their attention on how they can improve? Is it through meditation alone? Is it through other factors?
Well, I mean, it's funny. There's so many reasons, so many ways in which we can try to advantage our performance. My interest is going to be narrow because I study a particular thing. I study attention, and my interest is in seeing how we can preserve it. And oftentimes people talk about resilience, this capacity to bounce back. I'm not even interested in resilience. I'm interested in presilience.
Preserving it.
No, preserving it.
Preventing
the need for resilience in the first. It's like prior to being resilient, just keep everything steady.
Don't get to a place where you're exhausted and you're trying to push through something.
Don't decline and bounce back. Just don't degrade. So what does that mean? Well, what I told you before was that essentially we know that attention is vulnerable to degradation over demanding circumstances. And this project we did with even the University of Miami football team, preseason training.
Tell me about it.
The preseason period, their attention was worse at the end of a 4-week preseason interval than after. And now they got to go to camp to determine what their playing season is going to look like.
So preseason before training camp.
Before training camp, preseason training, right? Okay. So they're practicing every day. There's probably many of them were taking classes as well over the summer. Their attention was worse at the end of 4 weeks than before.
Why?
We just went over that. Stress, threat, poor mood, volatile, uncertain, complex, exhaustion, physical exhaustion, all of the factors that resulted in a protracted period of high demand. And by the way, it's not just elite athletes. We found this in undergrads as well.
Of course.
We know this, right? If you remember being an undergrad, like you feel worse when you're about to end the semester than at the beginning.
Because you haven't slept for a semester.
Well, that's part of it.
Pulling all-nighters.
But then what do you have to do at the end of the semester?
You got a big test.
Finals. Exactly.
Finals.
So you're not
More
advantaging yourself. Same thing with, by the way, pre-deployment soldiers.
Oh, wow.
So
boot camp. Yeah,
it's like, you're going to be getting ready to train. You're trying to, it's not even called...
Trying to break people down.
You're not trying to break people down. In fact, it's called readiness training. But it's not actually readying them in the attentional sense. They're depleted.
Interesting.
So that's the state of what things look like. So for us, our interest was in how can we provide training, just like a mental workout, mental conditioning, reps they can do every day on their own to keep their own attention in this buoyant, stable state instead of declining. So when you say, is it just meditation? Well, meditation itself, especially mindfulness meditation, is a kind of a world of its own. So I'd love to say a little bit more about that because, how you might define the term meditation may be quite different than the way I'm thinking about it. So just to kind of orient us. So first of all, like even the term meditation, I mean, I'm still like, I don't know if I even want to say that word. All it means to me as a cognitive neuroscientist, as somebody who's interested in brain training, is engaging in certain kinds of practices with regularity to cultivate certain mental qualities. So it's from the world's wisdom traditions. People have been doing this for eons. It's because there's an interest in having a certain way of making yourself, right? So whether that's being more compassionate or more loving or being more transcendent, or in the case of mindfulness training, more present-centered. So in my mind, and this is sort of the broad way that we think about mindfulness, it's mindfulness meditation. Mindfulness itself is a mental mode. It's a way of making the mind. Even before we talk about the meditation piece, just the state of being mindful. It's an orientation where you're paying attention to your present moment experience, or here and the now, without editorializing or reacting to it.
Sure.
So you're getting that raw data without a story on top of it. And we all want that. I mean, who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want to go into an experience? A lot of stuff may go down, but you're like, this is the facts. This is what occurred. This is the data of the experience. And it doesn't have to be just objective. It could be subjective as well, but it's what transpired.
Before the interview continues, if you feel like you're not living your most authentic life, not leaning into your purpose, and not living the life that your future self would be extremely proud of, I've written a new book called The Greatness Mindset, and I think you're gonna love this. Through powerful stories, science-backed strategies, and step-by-step guidance, The Greatness Mindset will help you overcome all the different challenges in your life to design the life of your dreams and then turn it into your reality. Make sure to click the link below in the description to get your copy today. Okay, let's get back to this video.
Instead of the reason he walked down the hall and didn't look at me is because I'm just a terrible person and he doesn't even think I'm worthy of looking at, right? I'm putting a story on instead of, his eyes were just not toward me. That's the facts. He wasn't
paying attention or whatever.
He was lost in thought. But anyway, what I'm saying is with mindfulness, you'd say none of the stories matter, just the data. The data was he and I were walking in opposite directions. His eyes were not toward me as we passed each other. That's it. So if you could take experiences and actually hold them in that level without spinning on the story about it, that could be very useful.
My training has been all about making every event neutral. And we give the events meaning, whether it could be a positive or negative meaning, I guess, or, it's like an event occurred. How do you want to respond to the event? Do you want to be stressed and overwhelmed and moody from it? Or do you want to see the data as it is, like you said, and then make a decision on how is this going to best serve the rest of my day or the rest of my life, by the story I tie to this event.
Yeah, at least you're seeing the story as something that's constructed actively. So we're totally in agreement. Like what you just described, I would say, is you're taking a mindful orientation toward your experience. The problem is just having that mindset won't be enough.
Okay.
Because there's such a strong tendency, this 50% we started talking out about. Yeah. The default is simulate reality, make assumptions, conceptually elaborate, emotionally react, and mentally time travel. So we're up against a lot. Right? We want to be in the here and the now. We want to get the raw data, but everything about almost like our evolutionary pre-programming makes that really hard to do, which is why, just like every good athlete, you train for it.
Yes.
So what's the workout we could do to actually get ourselves to be more present-centered in this non-reactive, non-elaborative way? That's where mindfulness meditation comes in.
Got it.
That's where it was really it's like kind of a chocolate peanut butter moment. Like, oh, I need this, and this has it. It's like, what is the opposite of a wandering and reactive mind? Oh, a mindful one. Well, how do you train for that? There's 2,500 years of practice that you can look at. So what we've essentially done is taken a lot of these wisdom tradition practices, primarily from the Buddhist traditions, and people have brought them into hospital settings, business settings, etc. My interest, which was the first time it had ever been done, is let's learn from all of that, and now let's bring it into the military context. And so when I started this work, like I said, it was new to me, but the notion of mindfulness-based stress reduction had been around by a dear friend and teacher, John Kabat-Zinn. He had already established, using these Buddhist practices, an 8-week, 24-hour or so program, which had a suite of practices. So it wasn't any one thing. It was like 4 to 6 main exercises. And so we looked at that and said, how do we use that in a way that can be useful? And just to give you an example of one of the practices, right? So one of the very simple practices, which when people say the term meditation, they probably think of this, but I want to connect the dots between how it relates to attention and why I thought it was an interesting thing. Can I do that?
Yeah, please.
So the practice is essentially what's called a focused attention practice, right? So what do you do in this practice? And it probably is going to resonate with some of the things that you already do, but you pick a period of time, let's say right now, like 30 seconds, we're going to do this. In my book, I'd say work up to 12 minutes, and that'll be this sort of sweet spot for real brain changes. For the period of time you're going to do this practice, you're going to sit in a comfortable, upright, alert posture, kind of upright, not uptight, kind of seriousness, but not stiff. Right. And notice yourself breathing. Just floodlight is on, breath-related sensations happening in the body. Then you're going to identify something in your kind of breath landscape that is prominent. It could be the coolness of air moving in and out of your nostrils, or maybe some part of your back that you notice moving, something that really stands out, it's salient. And then you're going to take that flashlight of attention and just shine it there for the period of time that you do the practice. So the first instruction is focus. Focus on breath-related sensations. And then the next part of the practice, as you're doing this, if it hasn't happened already, it's going to happen. When you notice your mind has wandered away from breath-related sensations, redirect the flashlight back. So you're just breathing, noticing, focusing, And when your mind wanders, nothing big to do, just bring it back and begin again. And that's it.
So that's the first step, is that practice. Just to notice how much it wanders.
No, you're not even noticing how much it wanders. You did 3 things. You focused, you notice, you redirected.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
That's what a lot of my military friends would call the push-up. That's the push-up. Now, it ended up that simple practice tapped into all 3 of those brain systems. You had the flashlight that was directed, you exercised that. Floodlight that's noticing what's going on. Right. And then that executive that says, get back.
Interesting. Get back on track.
Get back on track. Wow. So that practice is really foundational. It's to everything that people do. And then the other practices that I do go into detail on in the book are doing other things. Like this one really exercises both the focusing and noticing. Then we can do another one that really exercises the broadening. Like how do you actually allow? It gets into what you were talking about, the story-making mind, right? How do you actually just watch the nature of the mind? So essentially there is nothing privileged. It's just thoughts, emotions, memories, sensations passing through. We don't orient our experience that way. Usually something happens, it's like, we're latching onto content and we're making something out of it. So how do you take that observational stance? And then we go on to other practices that kind of build on those.
Gotcha. But you talk about a 12-minute mindfulness approach.
So we do, yeah. So the whole program is essentially based on these early mindfulness-based stress reduction contexts. But mindfulness-based stress reduction, very powerful, 55 years of research now that have studied it. Too much time for pre-deployment soldiers, for example. Like, people aren't going to give me, in fact, I tried it for a year. I had $2 million of Department of Defense funding and nobody would take my project. They're like, nope, too much time. So one of the things I had to do was write a grant that basically said, how can we figure out what the minimum effective dose is? Do they need to do 24 hours of training over 8 weeks and practice 45 minutes every day? Is that necessary? Because nobody was going to do it.
Mindfulness meditation training.
Just like you did for 30 seconds there. Very well. Well done.
Thank you.
For 45 minutes a day. That's the assigned homework, which is beneficial, but it's not realistic for these high-performance, high-stress groups.
Because they do 12 minutes a day or 5 minutes a day. Yeah.
So what we did is we looked to see what's the sweet spot. At what time, if people do daily, do we start seeing that, yes, it's beneficial and continues to be maintaining the benefits if they continue doing it. So the sweet spot was 12 minutes. They do 12 minutes or more, then we see beneficial effects. The more they do over 12 minutes, the better. Yeah. But less than 12 was not consistently showing a benefit.
12 minimum.
It's a 12 minimum, about 3 to 5 times a week.
Right.
So that helped. Then people were like, in fact, that's what we did with the football team. We went in and we said, based on prior research, it's about 12 minutes a day. And, we gave them 12-minute recordings, and they did it. They did it for about 5 days a week.
Guided meditation.
Guided meditation, just like I guided you right now, and you followed. Same idea, but we do it for the entire 12 minutes. We're guiding them.
And what does that look like? What is it? Focusing on your breath, focusing on your thoughts, focusing on...
I mean, at this point, with the practice, was very, very fundamental. The entire 12 minutes for one of the practices is focusing on breath-related sensations.
And that's it?
That's it.
Okay.
Now, what people start realizing is, my mind wanders. My mind wanders to the same stuff over and over again. So when you're not doing the formal practice, you might be able to think, like, what is it that's like sticky for me that I'm just keep going back to, and look at that in a different kind of a way. Mm-hmm. So it's a different progression, but remember, the point for me was, what does it do to attention? So with the football team, we compared 12 minutes of mindfulness a day for 4 weeks to 12 minutes of relaxation a day for 12 weeks. And we found that both were great for improving and boosting and protecting mood.
Mood, yeah.
Only mindfulness helped attention. There are certain states, certain ways that our attention functions where we are rubbernecking. We're like kind of can't pull ourselves away from it. And it doesn't have to be about the past. It could actually be worries about the future too. And this is a very powerful brain function, mental time travel.
Mental time travel. Tell me what that is.